Good morning. No, Falco. Mondays at 6. There's no way I wouldn't do it. I've done Tuesday episodes before, but that's because I had something on a Monday. No, Mondays are mine. Always my preferred. Nah, I ain't about that. I ain't about Tuesdays.
Nice as Sia was approaching.
Stop. That was your voice, actually. Also, hello everybody. I'm still finishing this up. Hello Luna Blasted. First time you're here. Pog Forever. First time in chat as a viewer. I'm assuming you watch regularly but are never here. Hello Brushstrokes. Sad JPEG's not doing it again. That'd be a lot easier for me. Hello Seth Q, another person probably isn't usually here for the when I stream these earlier in the day. Catch a different crowd, different live audience. This is like going on tour in a different city. Oh my god, Popgun Live. Yep. Be like that. Watching from work. I watch Falco when I'm at work. Also, that I watched that like 30-minute highlight video you made. That was pretty hype. Hope it gets more views. It deserves it. What's the acronym for custom dually squelchers? That's a trap. It's some sort of trick, and I'm not falling for it. Imagine falling for a trip. Too old. Too wise. All right, finished writing. And yes, hello, custom. Yes, Unlimited Woomy United. Apparently, for those watching on YouTube, I didn't realize this, but the closed captioning auto-generates for that. And Unlimited Woomy United got translated to Unlimited Women United. Okay, interesting. Also, very brave of some of you to read the closed captioning of a podcast. It's like kind of defeats the purpose of but whatever. That's a lot of reading you got to do for an hour of me yapping. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are pre-ordering Splatoon 3 at the Sandusky Best Buy, wondering what it is that Thanos was cooking before having his head sliced off, spamming Morbius nonsense in the 20XX Twitch chat, whatever it is that you're doing right now, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, happy Memorial Day. I don't think it's supposed to be a happy day, but if you, I guess this kind of applies to any country. If somebody died to help defend your country and your rights, I feel like it's totally fine to go out on today and celebrate. Not the fact that people died, but the fact that people died so that you could go on living and having a good life. So I feel like it's fair to say Happy Memorial Day. It's not, I don't know. Happy Memorial Day. Enjoy being alive today. This is a pretty cool thing. I spent the weekend at my parents' house, so no commentary. There's several opportunities for me to commentate something. Turned a couple of offers down, and it was more fun just kind of watching tournaments for a change instead of being involved in them in some form or fashion. This is, if you're watching this live, it is 6 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time right now. This is what time Popcasts are going to be every single week going forward. I had a little bit of a change at work that was that I'm very happy about, and that is now going to change my schedule. I'm now going to be working during the time Popcasts are usually going on. So if you're here listening to this live, good news. You can come back literally next Monday and listen to it live again there as well. To all the EU audience who doesn't stay up this late and all the people I had at that 12 o'clock time, let's be real. I didn't really like you anyways. I pretended to like you, but my heart went out to the 6 o'clock crowd. And if that ever changes, don't worry. 6 o'clock crowd, if I'm being honest, I don't really like you guys either. But you're here anyway, so there you are. News of tournaments that are of the maybe of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. Minnow Cup is going to be on June the 11th. That is not this upcoming Saturday, but the Saturday after that. It is a Clam Blitz only tournament, and that is my personal favorite mode. Low-Ink obviously is going to be announced in the next couple of days. I believe Wednesday is the first day of June, so we'll announce that. If you pay attention to any kind of Low-Ink dates, you already know what the dates for Low-Ink are going to be. Shouldn't be a surprise to, let's be honest, if you're listening to the podcast, you could probably predict with 100% accuracy when the next Low-Ink is going to be, but it hasn't been officially announced yet. But be on the lookout for that on Wednesday. Today, we are going to be recapping Little Squid League 20 and 20XX, both tournaments that use the Popcast in their promos to some extent. I helped promote both of these tournaments and just sat back and watched all of them. So all of their success, the success of both of these tournaments, goes directly to me, baby, as it should be. As well as some other tournaments that took place over this past weekend. Yes, I originally was going to talk about the RNG manipulation thing, but as I was watching the video, I wasn't crazy sold on it, and I believe the video's since been taken down, so we're just not going to discuss that. Just my general thoughts. I'm anything that gets shown in the training room, that's not a finished product yet. You guys do things against dummies that don't dodge your shots, don't move, that just stay in one spot where you can memorize what angle you got to put your reticle at. I don't care about that. When you guys pull off some sort of tech in a tournament, then I'll be like, whoa, there's something here. But that RNG manipulation thing still has some. It's not a finished product. If it even is something that can be viable, there's still a lot that needs to go into that. Because you can do a lot of amazing things against dummies in a training room. I want to see you do it against. Do it live. Do it live. But first. And as always, if you want me to actually pay attention to your message, you know what? This might be a new live audience. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I don't pay attention to you. That's because I'm just not good at that. So if you want to leave a message in chat that you want me to actually acknowledge, highlight it. I will go back and I'll read over it and give you my thoughts on whatever stupid thought that you have in your highlighted message. For those of you watching on YouTube, you know, highlighted messages don't translate to the chat that is in YouTube for whatever reason. So just take my word for it. That message that I'm reading out was highlighted. And Valorok, before I even read that, I just want to point out, if you leave one highlighted message and it's dumb, I'm never reading your messages again. Just a fair warning. Bowen, you get a little bit of leeway because I actually like you. I finally won't be saying anything bad about your predictions. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So, okay, that's fair, Valorok. That's fair. It finally happened. We did it. Little Squid League 20. Big Squid League. Big little big Squid League. I sound like a Rick and Morty skit at some points there. It finally happened. 6 months in the making. I believe it was supposed to be in December of last year. They ultimately canceled because they didn't get enough teams, even though I think they ended up with the same teams now than what they canceled back then. But here we are. We got it in. I didn't do anything. They got it in. The question was going to be this. Can you run a skilled cap tournament with a big prize pool? Does that work? Does that actually fit? It seems like two ideologies that clash with each other and don't really make much sense. So did it work out? $500 to a team that is, in theory, Div 7 or below. We'll take a look at that. Now, thanks to 20XX running the same exact weekend, this kind of flew under the radar. Because typically, whenever there's anything, any kind of prize money, any kind of art prize money, pat on the back, reward for anybody winning a low-level anything, it's always this low-level blah, blah, blah. They were rewarding mediocrity. This money should go to FT winning Kings only. I was like, all right, fine, chill out, bro. We've had these conversations many a times. Maybe it's not so much an ethical issue if a low-level team were to win something. But I didn't see any of that nonsense on Twitter this time around. Hey, that's awesome. I think the reason why is that 20XX kept all those people blinded. I think a lot of people in the higher echelon of the community didn't even know Little Squid League was going on, or if they knew it was going on, they didn't realize it had a prize, or since they have something they could fight for in 20XX, they didn't care. So whatever the reason was, this tournament got to fly under the radar without being any of the usual scrutiny that these kind of tournaments get. So I'm happy that took place. And if anybody did complain about it, they did it on their private accounts to their 2 followers who probably liked it anyway. So good for them. Nobody cares. But did this work? A $500 prize pool for essentially gamma bracket teams. Did this work out? Let's start with the format. A 2-day tournament this time around. Little Squid League, usually a 1-day event with group stage into a single elim top cut in a single elim like silver bracket / beta bracket kind of thing. This time around, 2-day event. Day 1 was not group, but it was Swiss. And day 2 was a double elimination. And they also had a Discord pre-show. That was... Wait a minute. This all sounds kind of familiar. Now I look at this thing. Yeah, they take the Spider-Man. He's getting his powers. Looks at it with his glasses and takes it off. He's like, "That's low ink." Kinda, maybe, sorta, it is. Look, if you, JPEG's thoughts on this, I don't know. I don't speak for JPEG. I'll speak for my thoughts personally. I don't think this is. Yes, this is basically low ink's format, but it's not. I don't think this is a direct ripoff. I think it's just more so they looked at what we did and saw, okay, that works. So this is probably going to work for what we're doing here. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what could they do? When you do a 2-day tournament, and we're going to look at this with both LSL and 20XX, when you do a 2-day tournament, you have to set it up to where it's worthwhile for teams to come out on both days. Now, I've been very critical of tournaments in the past, of running tournaments that are 2-day tournaments, and day 2 being a single M where half your teams are out of it in 15 minutes. It's not respecting the time of your teams that sign up in your tournament. Day 1 has to be the same thing. You can't, if you're going to have a 2-day tournament, day 1 just can't be a waste of time. It can't just be, they couldn't do the 4-team groups that they usually do, because then you're just having teams come out and play 3 matches and they're like, "Nice work, come back tomorrow." And like, why did we have to waste time today on Saturday? I have to take off work or cancel my trip to my friend's house or something like that for this. You only play 3 matches, so you can't do what they normally do. Could they have done a bigger group, like 20XX or like every other major does? Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious why they didn't just make bigger groups. It's not like they have seeding issues. They have always seed these teams anyway, so I don't really know why they went with Swiss over the bigger group thing. But I mean, it worked out. I guess the problem with Swiss, and I've been very critical of Swiss, and you guys know I don't like that Swiss is what we have to do with low ink, but with the amount of teams that we get, it's kind of a necessary evil for what we want to do. And there's also nothing on the line for low ink other than pride and glory, which means a lot to you idiots. But when you talk about an actual prize pool, you kind of want things to be, you want less RNG. You want to manipulate the RNG, if you will, which is kind of what groups come into play. With Swiss, it's this total nonsense as to what can actually happen in that group. I wonder if this was a group stage, though. Sia, who finished in second place, would they have even made top cut if this was a group stage? They probably would have been seeded in their group not to finish in the top half, I would wonder. So Swiss probably worked out into their favor to get them in the top cut, but some other things. But again, they probably took a spot of another team who probably would have been seeded a little bit better to get in there anyway. So it's kind of weird how you look into it. But at least 6 rounds of Swiss gets teams in the door and respects their time to play in this tournament. It's not a complete waste of time. And of course, the other thing they were going to do last time they tried to do this tournament was ladder. And I like ladder. I speak a lot of nice things about ladder, but for a major, I don't think ladders really work because they're so easy to rig into. There's especially with Battlefield, there's so many ways that you can cheat the system with ladder to make it fit to how you want it to fit to some extent. And of course, Nintendo has to do it with their thing because A, Nintendo's idiots, and B, they get so many teams that's really the only format that they can go with. But again, when there's a prize on the line, the more that you can the more that TOs can control their own tournament, the better. With ladder, you lose as a TO, you lose a lot of control of your tournament. So maybe Swiss was really all they could do. And if that's the case, so be it. I didn't see a lot of people complain, but if this was a higher level event, people would have been complaining all the live long day. Maybe people are just so used to low ink Swiss that they just kind of suckered in. I'm telling you, I've been on the record several times. I'll tell you again, Swiss is not a good format unless you have to absolutely do it. And maybe Little Squid League was in a situation where they had to absolutely do it, so be it. But yeah, prize money, though, changes everything. The low-level tournaments usually encourages teams to grow, to get better, find people around their skill level, so they're playing in a tournament where it's like, oh, you're at my skill level, we can scrim against each other, we can grow against each other, and then you can get better and stronger, and you might not win low ink, but you're going to get results someday that are going to force us to kick you out of low ink. Like a good chunk of you in chat right now actually have been kicked out of low ink because you earned it. And started off in tournaments like Little Squid League and Low Ink. A money prize, though, makes it a little bit different, right? The example is you're riding on a merry-go-round. Well, you're just riding on it. It's fun. There's no like competitive thing about a merry-go-round. You're just there enjoying a good time. But all of a sudden, you put like a carrot on the stick at the top of the merry-go-round. You say, whatever kid can get to the top of this merry-go-round and grab that carrot before it stops spinning, you win a prize. Well, all of a sudden, it's not about having fun riding the merry-go-round. All of a sudden, it's about how do I beat all these other kids to get to that carrot that's hanging on a string. It completely changes the format for it. Now, me personally, I'm crazy competitive about everything. I don't care if I'm playing a game of checkers against a 5-year-old. I'm trying to win. So that aspect I like about it. It makes things a little bit more interesting. But the also thing it does is that it puts a lot of eyeballs on your tournament. All of a sudden, everybody that's playing in this tournament, and maybe some people not playing in this tournament, all of a sudden become people that are verification helpers. Right? All of a sudden, you got a bunch of people being like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but this team signed up in this tournament. Are you going to actually let them play? Do you know that they got this result? I just want you to know they got this result. You get that a lot in Low Ink. Man, again, if I could just release a tell-all book of some of the DMs I get from Low Ink, there'd be some crazy stuff in there. And one of them is always, this team beat that team like 2 years ago. How come you let them in the Low Ink? It's like, bro, thanks. But when there's $500 on the line, all of a sudden there's a lot more people who have a lot more to say about who should and shouldn't be playing in a tournament that they aren't organizing. It's kind of interesting when those things kind of pop up. For the team that won this one, though, the Shadow Squids. Yes, I looked into them afterwards. Not a team I was expecting to win. And they have never played in a Little Squid League tournament before. However, you looked at the tournaments they did play in. They made Gamma Bracket back in January of Low Ink, and they played in April's Low Ink and didn't even qualify for Gamma Bracket in that one. So you got the sense, okay, Shadow Squids, perfectly fine. And that's what you want to see. When a tournament like this, and when we had that 200 prize Low Ink tournament, it was really scary then because it's like, oh man, if somebody nobody's ever heard of wins this tournament, what are we going to do then? And luckily, it was Xanadu that won that tournament. It's a team that had played in several Low Inks leading up to that and was like, all right, cool, that's legit. Shadow Squid's pretty legit too, and they won and they were undefeated per matches. It was not an easy win for the Shadow Squids at all. You could tell just by watching them play on stream that they were right at the same skill level as the other upper echelon teams in that tournament. They ended up losing 8 games, which is a lot of games. For a team that goes undefeated per matches, losing 8 games is a lot. That's a lot of L's to be taken there. Splat a little. Took them to a game 5. They got taken to a game 3, I believe, twice in the Swiss stage. Obviously, Sia took them to a game 5 in a crazy competitive best of 5 set in those grand finals that we'll get to in a second. But they were, yes. Shadow Squids, for not playing in a single Little Squid League and up to this, still perfectly right at the same skill level as everybody else. Now, who knows? The TOs will do their work and they'll be like, hey, wait, half your team was smurfing or something like this. We're not going to give you your money or whatever. I don't know, but just from what I saw with Shadow Squids, they look like a deserving champion. And rightfully so. And man, once again, how are all these Chargers getting away with things in this anti-Charger meta that we're in? And more people tweeting out, how come we banned all the anchor maps? And it's like, I don't know. Somebody forgot to tell low-level teams that Chargers suck, because we keep seeing them win all these tournaments here. Before we get into the top cut, and we'll show the actual bracket for that, I do want to mention this silver bracket, which I originally wrote down as beta bracket, but it's not. It's silver bracket. Beta was used in 20XX. Fish and the Bamboo Dragons. And it's interesting because I was watching the stream live, and I believe it was Falco who gave an update on the silver bracket score and said it was Fish and Bamboo Dragons, and I was like, oh, really? Didn't I just talk about those two teams playing against each other specifically on episode 18 of the Popcast? Why, yes, I did. In fact, since it's so cool that I have everything written out here, all I got to do is flip my note back to one sheet of paper, and I can look up and see exactly what I said about Fish and Bamboo Dragons last week. I said that I felt like these two teams are Little Squid League rivals because they played in round one of Low Ink last weekend, Fish winning 2-1. That was on stream in a pretty close set. But I said then, I bet those two teams have played a lot against each other. Lo and behold, we didn't even have to wait one weekend, and they're scrapping again. Winners finals and grand finals. I believe winners finals going 3-1 in favor of Fish. And grand finals going 3-2 into the favor of Fish. So if these two teams weren't rivals beforehand, they might as well be now. I mean, they played 3 times in the past 2 weekends this time around. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Was there a prize for silver bracket? I feel like I heard there was, but I didn't figure out what the exact cash payout for that was. But that adds another element to that as well. So there's another little $100. Thank you. $100 on the line between those two squads as they're going up against each other. I'm curious if there's a Little Squid League like 23, maybe 22, and these two teams are playing each other in grand finals. Commentators, pay attention. There's some history here between these two teams. You'll love to see it. It reminds me of, I always think back to the teams we played multiple times. Xanadu, the Crustacean Crusaders, even Splat Force many, many moons ago. Like, you get excited. And that's why people love low level, because low level has teams. And when you have teams, you have history. Fish and Bamboo Dragons, they got history with each other. I like to see it. I'm excited about seeing those two teams in particular going forward. So that's something I want to point out. Also, why is it not gold bracket? Okay, so it's silver bracket and top cut. Okay, maybe, yeah. Okay, moving on. Actually, before we do that, we'll catch up with the highlighted messages. What concert costs? Stop. Low Ink does $40, which is fine. That's not the case anymore. Low Ink now has a $0 prize pool. We used to be $40, and we're like, why are we doing this? That's nothing, and it's more of a hassle on us. So there is no prize for winning Low Ink. Let's see. Highlighted messages, please do this. Sounds like, releasing my DMs. But the prize got 9 DMs that morning about that. Doesn't surprise me at all. The Splat-A-Lot teams go all the way to Splat-A-Lot, I know. Well, yeah, that's why they're called Splat-A-Lot. The prize is a lifetime ban? Yeah, sure. That's sure. For some people act like that's a prize, but then they go on their private account and be like, why'd they kick me out? I actually suck. And it's like, this is weird. Okay. Let's look at the actual top cut and sing. A few teams that I want to point out here before we get anywhere else. So I did not do a top 10. I thought about it. I thought about not doing like an LSL preview episode, but just like a tweet out, here's my top 10 teams for who I thought was going to win LSL. Initially, when I looked at after registration closed, I looked over to the teams and I was like, oh, Eternal Frost. That's my number one team. I think they're going to win, but I assume they got kicked. I don't think they got dropped. I think they just got kicked. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So I don't know who the number one. I had no idea who my top 5 would have been. But Valorok took up the mantle and did not just a top 10, but made a fantasy bracket and filled out who was going to beat who by what amount of score. Shadow Squids did not show up anywhere on Valorok's bracket, and Sia got eliminated in like a loser's round too. Not to make fun of Valorok, but just to extra point out, predicting low level stuff is damn near impossible. Just because all this stuff is just unpredictable. I mean, who thought Sia was going to do as good as they did? But before we get into that, one team I probably would have put in my top 5 if I sat down and legit stared at this thing. I would have put Boston Squid Party at top 5, maybe top 3, and they impressed here. Yeah, Splat-A-Lot A, who I probably would have put near the top, probably would have been my number one team if I'm being honest here. Able to knock them out 3-0, but Boston Squid Party went on the run here. Ship Shape, Sea Cucumbers. Is this team associated with Crimson Quake? I know CQ Cumbers is a pun, but the fact that it's C.Q, I wonder if there's if this is some sort of Crimson Quake situation here where all these low-level teams just buy up other low-level teams and put them under the same umbrella for whatever reason. But still, Boston Squid Party able to do really well here. I feel like they're a solid team. I know they made beta bracket. I know they didn't qualify for any bracket last low ink, but I feel like that was more of a fluke than anything. These guys are legit. I think they proved that here with their performance this time around. Splat-A-Lot A, which was the only Splat-A-Lot team I believe this should come out here, even though there's like 7 of them. But obviously the best Splat-A-Lot team here. They beat the IRS. That's I need to know how to do that. And then swept Boston Squid Party and took Shadow Squids to a game 5. And this wasn't the first time Shadow Squids got really challenged. And actually, they took them to a game 3 in Swiss as well. So these guys were right with each other, but Shadow Squids beating them twice. Beating a team twice in the same tournament is difficult, especially when they seem just about as even with you as they appear to be here. So hats off to Splat-A-Lot A, who ultimately, where'd they go? They did not survive the winners semifinal curse that we have here. Because they fell to Absolute Zero. If you're wondering who Absolute Zero is, this team played in LSL number 19. They made silver bracket, got 3rd place in silver bracket. They didn't even qualify for top cut in the last Little Squid League. Knocking out Ship Shape here, losing to the 3rd place team Germanic Alliance. And then knocked out the Growling Otters, beat the IRS as well. And then Splat-A-Lot A before getting for Sia, said Sia, and get out of the tournament. But Absolute Zero, I don't think they played in a low ink since LSL number 19. So this is a team that is, I believe, dedicated mostly to Little Squid League. So I bet they're just thrilled that this tournament's here. And obviously, 3rd place in a silver bracket to a much more competitive Little Squid League the next time around to making 4th place. That's a hell of a glow up for Absolute Zero. Not too shabby for them. But the real story here, the darlings of this one is Sia. And if you wonder why I call them Sia with that kind of aggressiveness, I forget the name. I forget the name of the commentator for the Yes Network who does the Yankee games. But every time somebody hits a home run for the Yankees, that is the call that guy always does. See ya! So I like saying it like that. And that's the only reason I know of the team See ya, because every time I talk about them on the podcast, I do that little extra emphasis because I like saying that. But it turns out they're pretty good. The last time we saw See ya in Little Squid League, I believe, was LSL number 16, where they lost in winners quarterfinals to the Squid Killers. 2-3. And when you start naming off teams like that, it's like, oh, that's kind of impressive when you think about, oh, wow, wait a minute. Squid Killers used to be in Little Squid League? That's crazy. Actually, I didn't realize this, but in Little Squid League 16, Squid Killers lost to INKD. Those two teams combined together 4 months later to finish second place in low ink as the Inked Killers. I didn't realize I forgot they played against each other in Little Squid League. When you look back to the teams that play in Little Squid League, it's like, man, this is a great tournament. That really helped a lot of teams along the way there. But see ya. Quarterfinals of LSL 16, they played in Minnow Cup number 10, which I guess was the last Clan Blitz one. They finished 16 in their seed. They made the last time they played in low ink, I believe, was in January, where they qualified for Gamma bracket but got bumped up to Beta, and then got beat pretty badly in Beta because it's obvious they didn't belong there. But still, I didn't expect Sia when they showed up here to go on the run that they did. Now, yes, they beat a couple of teams here. Glitter Gel Pins, they probably should beat. The Growling Otters, they said this was their first tournament ever that they played in, so that's one they should beat. And then you get swept out by the team that you ultimately swept right back. Again, hard to beat a team twice in a row. But here's what's interesting about Sia. Is that when you lose in low ink, now low ink curses don't apply to Little Squid League curses, even if it's the same double limb format here. But typically when you lose a winner's semifinals and you go down here, the first match you play against, regardless, is against the team that is on a 2-game win streak. Minimum. Because you see, right beforehand, it's 2 loser bracket teams that have to play. So no matter who you play, they're on a roll automatically, and you are on a loss. So that's why this is a trap game. Low ink teams in this situation, when they lose winners finals and fall down here, they only win 40% of the time. That is a fact. It is very difficult to escape this. And only one team has ever won low ink by losing winners semifinals. That was the Grillers in July of 2020. So this is a tough spot that Sia found themselves in. And look what they did. They just dropped 1 game to Boston Squid Party, a very good Boston Squid Party team, as I just mentioned, and then swept Absolute Zero and Germanic Alliance. Sia, get out of the tournament. We're moving on to grand finals. And then in this grand finals set, if you did not see this, go back and watch it. It's a treat. Just because it didn't go to a bracket reset, but just because it didn't go to a bracket reset doesn't mean it wasn't a fantastic best of 5 set in particular. Every game did not get KO'd. And here's the actual amount of points that each team won by in all 5 games. Game 1, Shadow Squids won by 7 points. Game 2, Shadow Squids won by 20 points. Game 3, Sia won by 20 points. Game 4, Sia won by 8 points. In Game 5, Shadow Squids held on to their lead to win by 2 points. That's 5 games, and the biggest lead anybody had at the end of it was 20. Most of them in the single digits. That's literally as competitive as you can get between 2 teams. And that's tough. And that's a hard fought win for the Shadow Squids. The difference there, the issue Sia had in this set is that they lost the opening minute of all 5 games. They were literally playing from behind the entire time in that set. And sometimes they pulled off dramatic pushes seemingly out of nowhere to get leads in game 3 and 4. But it's like, if you just played from in front in one of these games, maybe that's a little bit of a difference here. But yeah, constantly having to play catch up. And it's amazing they caught back up 2 times in a row. But ultimately just too big of a hole to overcome at the end. And honestly, I didn't bet channel points in the first one. But if there was going to be a bracket reset, I would have put money down on the Shadow Squids just because I felt like they were kind of sluggish. Even though they won game 1 and 2, they seemed kind of sluggish. And then they just kind of let 3 and 4 slip away from them. But if it did go to a bracket reset, even though that would have been extremely frustrating for Shadow Squids, I feel like they would have won that anyway. So I was ready to put a lot of money on them if it got down to that point. But still, see ya! I see ya. I see ya. And we all see you too. That's a heck of a run that they went on there. And they deserve a little pat on the back for that. Obviously, Shadow Squids winning this whole kit and caboodle. And like I said, not easy here. Not easy here. And if they lose this game 5 to Splat-A-Lot, and then they have to go down here and run into a buzzsaw, they might not even make podium. So just keep that in mind. They almost got knocked out right here, seemingly of the entire tournament, and whatever that game 5 was. I don't know if that was on stream or not. I wasn't watching. Maybe this one was on. I don't know, but still, that's how close these things are. And hats off to Shadow Squids for winning this one. Now, I hope the TOs, whatever the TOs wanted out of this tournament, I hope they got it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Little Squid League, even though I've never played in one. But it was difficult, 6 months, possibly longer, to get to this point, to get this tournament in, and they still had to run up against 20XX. Whatever it is that they wanted out of this tournament, I hope they got it. Me personally, though, the real value of Little Squid League is not, well, yeah, it's Sia. It is Sia to some extent because Sia started off as a weaker team in Little Squid League and grew up over time. And as I look at this tournament, Territorial Water Otters, Everglade, Joy-Con Drifters, Growling Otters, who said this was the first tournament they played in. That's what I think of when I think of Little Squid League. I think of teams that are starting off, and this is a good tournament for them. And they haven't had it in the past couple of months because it's been so difficult for Little Squid League to get this tournament in. But hopefully Little Squid League 21 goes back to that single day format and they can start creating this environment so that we can start cranking out. I mean, I talked about some of those teams in the past. Inked and Squid Killers going from Little Squid League up to where they are now. I talked about in the promo, allegedly, it was anonymously, could have been me. ITAP, Legato, Wiggly Phantoms, all those teams started off here. Oofish and Bamboo Dragons starting off here. This is the premier tournament, and I said this is one of the few tournaments that does things right. Many imitators, often imitated. People keep trying to recreate Little Squid League because it does things right. And it creates this environment for new teams to pop up and grow. And then they can go on the little low ink. And then they can start making the alpha brackets and the beta brackets. That's what the value of this tournament is. So I hope it gets back to that. But they got it in here. And that's all that matters. Also, 41 teams. Is that the limit? Like, is that like 41 teams for a tournament that has a ceiling as low as this one? Is that the most you can get into this? I wonder, like, yeah, would they have liked more teams? Yeah, and I think that was the mindset. But I'm also just thinking, like, who else could have played in this that didn't? I can't think there's like 40 additional teams that could have. I think they got everybody they could have gotten for this tournament. Now, in Splatoon 3, that might change. Yeah, we expect it to change. Everyone's projecting the scene to explode as soon as Splatoon 3 comes out. I'll believe it when I see it. But I feel like 41 is what they could have got with how low the ceiling is at this point. But overall, congrats to Little Squid League. And congrats to Shadow Squids. And thank you for giving me yet another opportunity to say, see ya! Even though they got second place. One highlighted message from Luna Blasted. We lost to Germanic Alliance because our captain DC'd 3 times that set. Are you from Sia? That would make sense. Captain D-Seed. Hey, showing up is half the battle. I can't spend all day talking about that. There was also a arguably bigger tournament that went on this day. But before we get into that, we got to cover some other things that happened this past weekend. It's time now for the weekly recap. Michael K is the broadcaster for the Yes Network, the that covers Yankee games, that does the "see ya" call whenever they hit home runs. I like that. Michael K. I should have known that one. Again, was going to do a little bit of a talk about the RNG manipulation video that came out in this segment. However, it has since been taken down, I believe, by the creator. So we're just going to skip over that and go on to it. But again, in my opinion, anything that is new tech, the labbing, the actual testing ground, that's just the beginning of it. It's not finalized until somebody pulls it off in a tournament. Dummies sit there and they don't dodge bullets and they just eat them all. They just sit there and take it. I want to see what you do against live opponents there. World Championships took place on Saturday early in the morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you're on the West Coast, you probably were not even awake as it was getting into grand finals there. Top 8 teams from around the world, including Alliance Rogue representing Europe, Starburst representing North America, and the other 6 teams representing the country of Japan. We got 2 teams representing 2 different continents and 6 teams representing 1 country. That tells the state of how much better Japan is from the rest of the world at this game. But so be it. I believe the team that won is called Resistance. Translated in English as Resistance. Alliance Rogue lost in round 1, which I believe was a best of 3 set in single elimination. Starburst won a match. And then went on to lose in semifinals. Now, if you're wondering why Starburst and Alliance Rogue, well, Alliance Rogue won the King of the Castle qualifier for that, which IPL hosted. So we actually hosted the European qualifier for that. What was the reason Starburst got in? Apparently, it is because they won the NA Open, the Nintendo tournament. Who knew that was going to be the qualifier of all things for the World Championships? So be it. Now, this is not related to Nintendo at all, but if you had told people ahead of time, hey, if you win the Nintendo tournament, we're going to let you into the World Championships, you might have seen some more teams come out and play in it, which is also weird because, again, it's not truly North America. Everybody south of Mexico is banned from the Nintendo tournament, so it's I don't know. You probably should have just had a regular North American qualifier tournament run by us, and us mean the general community and not Nintendo, but so be it. Magic 8 Ball and 9 Hole Grains did a English commentary, an English stream of that. And I only briefly watched it because I was waking up as well. But I'm sure if you got in contact with either Magic, who's in chat, or 9 Hole Grains, or just look somewhere, there's probably VODs of that stuff floating around. Always interesting to see that Japan uses missile spam at well, unless they don't. Duel Inc. 100 was won by Leafy and .Q, who I believe has won just about every single Duel Inc. tournament that they've signed up for. They went by the team name of Club Penguin. Is that still a thing? Club Penguin was around when I was a teenager. And they just had like a sledding game in it. And it was like, what is the point of this? Is Club Penguin still a real thing, or are you guys just memeing on it? I can't tell anymore. They beat Madness and Legend, who was oddly enough called Give Us .Q. Well, they got .Q and, well, got they got what they wanted for. The 100th edition of this tournament had a $100 prize pool, and this was yesterday, so the third tournament on Sunday to hand out cash prize to somebody. It was Duel Inc. If you're wondering what Duel Inc. is, it is a 2v2 tournament. They also had an announcement afterwards that they were adding a new tournament, or a tournament that was gone on hiatus. There's going to be on Fridays a 3v3 tournament. So now they got a 2v2 tournament and a 3v3 tournament. So now this Duel Inc. Org, I guess, Double Trouble, is now just kind of monopolized all non-4v4 tournaments. How many of you realize there is the thing called Duel Inc? I've commentated one Duel Inc before. It's hard. It's difficult to commentate a 2v2 tournament. It's different. And I've never seen a 3v3, but there you go. If you're interested in something and you don't have as many friends as you need for a 4v4 tournament, check out Duel Inc. They've done 100 of them. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by JPEG's Map Maker website thing, Map List Maker website. If you if the send out thing isn't working out for you and you want something that helps make your map list for your tournaments and you can post it a lot easier, check out JPEG's map list website. Go to his Twitter, probably can find some information on it there. JPEG probably needs to put his name on it so that whenever somebody uses it for a tournament, it credits him for coming up with that little format there. JPEG's map listing website, the official sponsor of today's episode of the Weekly Recap. I didn't throw it over my chair. And now for the main event. However, we do got an update on Club Penguin. It shut down several years ago? Really? How do you guys even know what Club Penguin is then? Shouldn't that be like a relic to some of you people? You guys are too old. Wow, you guys are too old for Club Penguin. What does that make me? So, I have said before, many a time, that I would like to see a major with no gimmicks, no paint this much turf to win, no you can only use this kind of weapon, you can only use weapons that came out at this time. No, I just want to see a game that's played, a tournament that's played with everybody just using the normal game, just playing the normal Splatoon 2 game. We haven't seen that since the Reddit tournament in New Year's. That was the last major prize pool couple day tournament that we saw in the scene. New Year's Day, 5 months ago, almost 6. So 20XX took a clip of me saying on the Popcast that, hey, somebody should try running a major and see what happens. Well, they did. 20XX streamed by Dapple Productions and seemingly completely run by them when you look at the tweets and see who was a part of the staffing for that one. Dapple Productions there, and a major that took place over this past weekend. Just with Little Squidly, which we just talked about. What are you doing? Why are you having a 2-day tournament? Do you have a format that makes sense to where it makes sense to have a 2-day tournament where you should be bringing out a team on Saturday and Sunday, and it's not just a complete waste of time? The format for this one, a little bit more traditional, what you see typically in a major tournament. Groups on day 1, double elimination on day 2. A little bit of a twister, though. The beta bracket, or silver bracket, was played on day 1. Okay? So if you qualified for the alpha bracket, you're done after the group stage. Fair enough. You played 5 or 6 matches of in your groups. That's fair. But if you fell down the beta, you immediately play in a single elimination tournament that same day. That's interesting. I wonder why beta the same day instead of just day 2 being a double elimination for beta. That seems almost like a punishment that you fell down to beta, or hey, congratulations, you were seeded low and you qualified for beta. You got to play the entirety of beta bracket right now though. Day 1 lasted 5 hours. I'm curious. I didn't play in it, but I'm curious what people who did play in that beta bracket and made deep runs into it thought about it, because 5 hours seems pretty tough. I guess that is fair. Gooey gas. Both teams getting streamed if beta and alpha happen at different times. That is fair. But it's also from the player perspective of, I have to play longer. Yeah, I get to be streamed, which is something people always want. How come we're not streaming beta and gamma brackets? I don't know, because it's inconvenient for those two brackets. I wonder what the general consensus of beta bracket teams was. Did they like that they had to play an additional 2 hours after group stage and get it all done on Saturday? Or were they like, well, I get to be on stream? I don't know. Since I didn't play it, I don't have a definitive answer to that, but I'm curious what the feedback on that specifically was. 4 Beans was the team that ended up winning beta bracket over Cannoli, which seemed to be a half summit pickup, along with Prosper, and I forget who else was on that team. Gigas. Side note, before we go a little bit further, I saw a few people were taking L's and complaining about it on Twitter because they made illegal counter picks and they weren't warned about it, so they just took the L anyways. I find that interesting. I feel like I'm missing some context here, because if you make an illegal counter pick and the TO says you're going to take an L for it, how is that the TO's fault? I mean, it's you're the one who made the illegal counter pick. Now, I didn't know what the counterpick rules were, so I looked at the rules on the Battlefy site, and the only rule on the Battlefy site was captain's report score, which made me go, that is so frustrating. So then you couldn't just go to the Dapple production server. The Dapple production server is just a hub. You have to actually join the 20XX server. Instead of everything being under one server, I got to join 5 different servers for all their tournaments for whatever reason. But I was able to find the rules, and the rules were just standard counterpick rules. So I don't understand how people made illegal counterpicks and why they were upset when a TO decided to take an L, give them a loss. Yeah, would it be nice to get a warning? Yeah. But I mean, if I run a stop sign and a cop pulls me over, yeah, it's kind of frustrating that, like, if I get a ticket or a warning is dependent on the mood of that cop that pulled me over that day. That's kind of baloney. But at the end of the day, if I don't want to get pulled over, I don't run the stop sign, right? That might be a horrible example, giving the state of the world nowadays. But if you break a TO rule, isn't that on you for breaking that rule? I feel like there's some context I'm missing there, but that's just something I wanted to point out. Now, since we're speaking of day 1, remember that gimmick tournament that had the Final Four, like the Nintendo Final Four was happening the same day as that gimmick tournament, that 2-day gimmick tournament. And that TO, I think it was one of Beta's tournament. And Beta was like, hey, you guys are already playing in the Nintendo tournament. We're going to have you guys skip day 1 and just automatically put you in alpha bracket. And that made a lot of sense. Those 4 teams were going to make alpha bracket anyways. But as what you see with day 1 of 20XX, you get the sense of like, okay, nobody really like fell out of alpha bracket that could have been upset their way like out of there. But it wasn't the cakewalk that we traditionally associate day 1 being with a lot of these teams. A lot of really suspicious losses happened, especially in round 1 of group stage in 20XX. And I think the culprit here is that it was best of 3 instead of a traditional kind of best of 5 that Super Jump was for their group stage. But you got teams like Starburst who lost 2-0 to Grape Juice in round one. That might likely be a little bit of case of fatigue, considering Starburst was up at like 4 a.m. so that they could play through the World Championship and then turn around to play 20XX. But still, excuses are excuses. At the end of the day, Starburst lost to Grape Juice, got swept by Grape Juice in group stage. Alliance Rogue took an L in round one. Another team that played in that World Championship. They lost round one to the Heritage team, I believe. Bramball, which was essentially not FT Win plus Brian, they lost round one to, or maybe it wasn't round one. No, it was round one. They lost round one to The Root, 2-1 there. Now they did turn around and sweep them the next day out of losers bracket, but still, taking an L early on there as well. Who else? There was one other kind of interesting upset. Oh, Foams 14, 2-0 against 4 big guys, which was yet another round one loss. So there you go. Now, did all these upsets change anything as far as the like who made what bracket? No, it didn't. I think you finished in the top 3 of your group. You moved on to your bracket, so it didn't really matter. What it screwed up though was the seeding. The seeding was all kinds of messed up. And I'm not talking about the initial seeding that came out that people were like, why am I playing the same team in my group in the first round of this double elimination bracket? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the seeding getting messed up as far as like who should actually be seeds 1 through whatever. Instead, it just seemed more like a jumbled mess, not because the TOs did anything wrong, but because the teams did things wrong by taking awkward losses that they traditionally don't really take. You had the number 1 seed be Grape Juice. Now, I'm not talking anything bad about Grape Juice. Obviously, they beat Starburst. They deserved that. But they won like one game or one match in losers bracket on Sunday. Your number 1 seed is being eliminated in losers round 4. That screws up a lot of things. Now it's not like, oh, good, I'm the number 1 seed, I got the benefit of dodging certain people. No, the monsters have been scattered all around because they kept losing during the group stage. So now you got like the Starburst as the number 10 seed. You got the team that won. You got the team that finished in second place, or the team that finished in 4th place, 4 big guys. They're the number 17 seed, and they're the number 17 because they lost to Foams. You got the number 2 seed losing in losers round 6. You got Jackpot as the number 4 seed. You got Kings. Kings were the number 3 seed in this tournament. So like the seeds all got crazy mixed up because of all of these losses. And I'm sitting here thinking, if this was best of 5 instead of best of 3, a lot of this probably gets cleaned up. In day 2 is probably a little bit more what we traditionally see a bracket being, instead of your number 1 seed getting eliminated so quickly. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Best of 3, best of 5. Yes, teams are, I've been on record saying this, Starburst is beatable in a best of 3. Anybody is. The proof is in the pudding. Anybody's beatable in best of 3. Is anyone going to beat Starburst in like a best of 5? I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it first. If your name's not Kings or FT Win, it hasn't happened up to this point. But at the end of the day, there's only so much hand-holding TOs can do. They can't just be like, here, you get to beat this team because you always do. You got to go out and earn it. So that's probably a frustrating thing for everyone that all these kind of upsets happen that didn't change who made what bracket, but just screwed up alpha bracket in general and just made all the seedings complete nonsense. But maybe that's why we don't really see best of 3, just because it's more likely for nonsense like that to kind of happen there. Before we get into some noteworthy stuff, we'll catch up on what I missed here. Might be hard to set up, but it would be cool if there were like 2 or 3 streamers at a time. Okay, yeah. Okay, so people have been talking, oh, you should do that with Super Jump and Low Ink and all this stuff. And yeah, the answer is we're just, with Low Ink, we're just happy to have enough people to do one stream. And also, we're not really big enough. If Low Ink did like a stream of all three brackets, instead of like 300 people watching one stream, you're going to have like 200 people watching the first stream, and then like 20 watching the beta stream, and then like 5 watching the gamma stream. And it's just the people that play in gamma that are watching the gamma one because they want to see what the commentators are saying about them, which is something I'll never understand. Why do people who are actually playing in the set get into the Twitch chat? Shut up and play the games. Don't focus on what idiots are saying in chat. Focus on the game. I'll never understand that. But yeah, like the Splatoon scene in general is nowhere near big enough to where tournaments can have multiple streams, unless it's something like the World Championships where it's like, okay, we need an English broadcast of this so that we can tap into the English audience that wants to see this tournament but have no idea what the commentators are saying. But I mean, yeah, that's a point that's brought up a lot, but it's the answer is, as a scene, as a community as a whole, we're not big enough for something like that. It feels inconvenient to have a hub server and then go to a tourney server. I would like to see all in one. Yeah, it's annoying for sure, but able to see. And I hate it when like somebody's like, here's the tournament. An advertisement for the tournament, and it's not a link to the Battlefy or the start.gg. It's a link to the Discord, which I know, like, if you're going to play in it, you've got to join the Discord anyways, but it's like, I just want to see who's signed up for this tournament. That's all. But I can't do that because I got to join the Discord first, then look at that. And then when I see that, I'll leave the Discord and close out the thing. Just let me see the tournament. I digress though. Noteworthy stuff that happened here. First off, the Sleeping Seals in Blazing Storm, Low Ink recent champions, played in this tournament, and they actually played against each other. The Sweepy Shields got a 2-0 win over the Blazing Storm. Two teams I traditionally give a little ooh-ooh to for seemingly no reason. They played against each other, and the Sweepy Shields got a 2-0 win over Blazing Storm. Is this a potential High Ink 3 matchup, if High Ink 3 is even a thing? I mean, they both won Low Ink recently. They'd be eligible for something like that. Sleeping Seals get a little bit of better end of them as well. Sleeping Seals making Alpha Bracket. I see you guys. Good to see Low Ink teams not disbanding after they win Low Ink, but going on to continue to improve. That's been kind of a nice thing to see in recent weeks, or early recent months, because that was definitely not the case last year. The basically Chewits Mafia. I believe they're Fruits Mafia. Opale Fruits Mafia this time around, but basically Chewits Mafia. So they were on stream in the group stage against Kings, which was like, why would you ever put Kings on stream during a group stage? The commentators said something like, oh, this is the first match we could see go to a game 3. And I'm just like, you don't know no, that's not going to happen. Not because Chewits is bad, but because Kings is likely going to win this tournament. Why would you put them on the group stage? But Chewits Mafia, to their credit, was really good in this tournament. No, they didn't beat Kings, but they did go on to sweep Hollow, and beat Snowpoint as well. I believe they ultimately got eliminated in losers round 4, but you like teams that could beat some of those best teams, and Hollow has been kind of projected to be one of these upper echelon kind of teams. But Mafia here, able to get some good wins in this tournament, and you like to see those kinds of things. Foams 14, obviously, kind of talked about how they got the big upset over the team that ended up going 4th overall in this tournament, finishing in 4th place overall in this tournament, finding their way into Alpha Bracket as the number 14 seed, and beat Snowpoint as well. I originally was going to say they got eliminated from... No, they actually beat Snowpoint as well, 2-0 to start off the day. Nicely done, Foams. Can't wait to see what Foam 15 is going to show us there. Now, let's talk about Starburst for a minute. Because this is a very similar path that they had back in Super Jump, if you guys remember last September. They play the Kings early. Or not early. They play them in semifinals, which they did in Super Jump. They took them to a game 5, and they seemed to be right with them, just like in Super Jump. Now, in Super Jump, they beat them in game 5. This time around, they lose to them in game 5 of semifinals. But it's still the same matchup. They still play against each other in winners finals, or in grand finals. And just like grand finals of Super Jump, this time around, Starburst, yet again, seems to just run out of gas against these guys. It's the matches we always see Starburst play versus Kings on stream are nowhere near as competitive as the results would make you think they are off stream. Starburst just can't really overcome that, and Kings is getting the 3-0 sweep and just kind of eliminating them from the tournament as they go on to win the whole thing. Again, I think there's just some fatigue going on here for Starburst. They had a long weekend. I think Ice tweeted out that they were up for 36 hours at one point. Actually, I don't even know what Starburst's roster, because they keep saying they got people leaving, and they got some FT Win players that play for them. And I believe they had Tic Tac play with them. Okay, so Ice was on the roster for this one, but still, I think Starburst just kind of ran out of gas in this one. Not saying they would have beat Kings if situations were different. I just think they loaded up their plates a little too much for this upcoming weekend, and that's probably why they ended up getting the 10th seed. But still, it's just weird them ending up getting the 10th seed, because it screws up so much. But they're still just as good. They're still the best NA team by far at this point. And, who knows what FT Win's actual roster is. Who knows what Starburst's actual roster is as well, because you had people saying they left or whatever. But the Starburst conglomerate, still the best. It's just who beats the Kings, and that's kind of the issue here. Because when you look at the Kings, this is their record per game. They went undefeated per matches, but here's the record per game: 24 wins and only 3 losses. Starburst took 2 from them, and Jackpot took 1, and that's it. They swept everybody else. And it's not like Kings dodged anybody. They played Alliance Rogue, Jackpot, Starburst twice, the best of the best. Who else could they have played? I guess they didn't play Rift, but Starburst swept Rift out of the tournament. And then 4 big guys eliminated Rift as well. They didn't play. Who's left? Those are probably the 3 most notable teams outside of FT Win, but FT Win's team or the FT Win players that were here got knocked out by Rift, and Heritage eliminated them as well. So it's who's left to kind of stand in the way of Kings? There's nobody. And they're clearly the best team that plays in these major tournaments. It's not that they're unbeatable, because Starburst has beaten them once, and they have lost when they played in those gimmick tournaments. They didn't win the All Brush one, and I forget whatever. Beta's most recent one, I feel like Kings got knocked out early in that one as well. But when you play the game just straight up, Kings, it's not that people are struggling to beat Kings; they're struggling to take games off of them. And that's probably why people get frustrated watching these things compared to Low Ink, because it's so predictable. If I told you, here's the podium: Kings 1, Starburst 2, Jackpot 3. I think everyone in chat would have had that podium. It's so predictable. It's chalk. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy watching it. It doesn't mean you guys don't enjoy watching it. But there's not. It's like when you get to high level, there's different tiers that are broken down with that, and there's only one team in each tier. It's like this team will always beat that team, and that team will always beat this team, and nobody can touch this team at the very top. It's just interesting. And I feel like that would get breaking down more if there were more things that would entice these higher level players to play other than gimmick tournaments. So if there was more things like 20XX, and there were more major tournaments or more weeklies that had prize pools, then you would get these matchups a lot more often. The Alliance Rogue, Rift, Jackpot Kings, FT Win, Starburst, you would get those matchups a lot more often, and I think the gap would get closed. But when Kings only plays everybody once every 6 months, and it's like, hey, do you remember us? You forgot about us, didn't you? Just a little reminder. We're taking your money, and then we're just going to ride off into the night. We'll see you guys in another 6 months. If that was more consistent, I think high level would be a little bit better. That's not to say I didn't enjoy this tournament, but that's just kind of the sign of the times that I think that we're in right now. $417.60 was the final payout for this tournament. Feedback. Here's the biggest dub I think of this one. The feedback was positive. I looked at the feedback channel. I kept an eye on help desk. Everybody was polite, suspiciously polite and nice to the TOs and said please and thank you. And nobody was disrespectful, at least that I saw. And it was like, whoa, this is great, because this is something I talked about. People don't do high-level events because high-level players traditionally have been a-holes to TOs. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. I saw a lot of people being nice over the course of this weekend, and maybe people were being jerks again on their private accounts. Who cares? You tweet on your private account because you're scared your opinion isn't actually good. We understand that. But the feedback seemed generally positive. And maybe it's because people realized that there was just one person. Alice tweeted out that they were the only person running the tournament on day one. So maybe people were like, okay, I understand. This is, you're the person who's like, at the grocery store and you're the only person working there that day. I'm not going to yell at you. It's not your fault. Maybe that's the kind of thing going on there. But still, I feel like this is just a win for everyone. And it has me excited about what's next. And you might be saying to yourself, Popgun, what's next? Platoon 2's dead. I know what's next. Maybe you guys will find out by the end of the month as well. That being said, we're going to end the Popcast right here. And we're done with highlighting messages, so we got everything done. Nice. I'm going to like these 6 o'clock time slots here. I'm enjoying this. We'll be back next Monday with another 6 o'clock time slot, Eastern Daylight Time. And to everyone who watched this on YouTube, who normally watches at 12, thanks for your continued patronage. If you would like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me in my socials below. Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord Popgun, #5882, YouTube at 25 Popgun, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun, TikTok at Mr_Popgun. Let's read Chara. That seems like a safe bet. Follower, subscriber only, chat. Yes, so be it. Get vaccinated. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. We'll see you guys next month, or next week, and next month, but next week first.